team here at DSD, and I'm in charge oversee the housing inspection process. So welcome. The team here has put together this couple hour long training to go over the portal and some of the more recent updates. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Debbie Smith, who's going to take it from here.
Hi, I'm hearing a little bit of a feedback, so if you haven't put yourself on mute, please do so. There are 39 people on, so it's a big group. So most of the people's names are coming in under participants, and but I do see there was at least one person on the phone, so I'm wondering if we could find out who that person is.
That's Therese Churchill and Michelle Lucier, because I can't get my audio to work on Microsoft Teams.
Okay, thank you.
Laura Willis Cooper from HCRS. My computer is restarting, so hopefully I'll be able to log on once it's done.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else on by phone that I missed? Okay, thank you. So we're going to start by reviewing the agenda for today. Chris just provided the introduction to what we're here for. After the agenda, we're going to start looking at an overview of the assessment and going into details about using the housing portal. And we're going to try to save time at the end for question and answer. This is an overview of the system, and we're already planning another training to go more in depth on certain items.
I don't know how to use.
So next page, Lisa, please. So the overall process flow, which I'm sure that you've heard before, but we want to start from the beginning, is the portal starts with the location. That's going to be the master record that contains all the information. And then from the location, you enter the case, and that is the participant specific information. This is about the client. And from there is where you generate the assessments that's going to contain all the inspection items for the location. So 3 separate things, but they all work together, starting with location, case, assessment. So keep that in mind. Think of it over and over, location, case, assessment, because that's the flow and that's where it all starts.
And please let us know if you're having problems seeing the screen. You should be able to see the screen of the PowerPoint. And also we are recording this so that we can post it on the website afterwards. So in the location, some of this is repetitive for some of those that have worked in the portal for a long time, but we're repeating certain pieces of it because it's very important. And one of these is the assessment expiration date. If you go to a location and there's a date in there that's a current date, then it's highly likely that you don't need to do a safety assessment, home safety assessment, because the location's already had an assessment done. There are some odd circumstances where that may not be the case, and if you have a unique situation in which you feel that home safety is necessary, you should contact DAIL. If there's no date there, or if the date has expired, then you will need to have a home safety assessment for that location. And that just shows where the expiration date is. If it's blank, then that tells you immediately that something has to be done for that home.
Hey, Lisa,
Yes?
it's Sarah Shirley Eldred. I
Yes.
thought in the past it was told that we would get a notice that would tell us that the expiration is due. Is that not true? Do we have to just go in and look?
Shirley, I will check on that. I don't know if the system automatically notifies you or not. I know that agencies can check in the report. There's a report that could tell you if the expiration date's done or not, so that you don't have to go into each location. But I will need to check to find out if the system actually automatically notifies you once the expiration date has passed.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, it's Marcia Gadway from CAP. Quick question about the checking the expiration date. What report is that? I want to be able to pull up a list of by expiration date and get that report.
Okay, toward the end, we're talking about reports. So can you ask that again at the end of, toward the end when we're talking about reports?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lisa, before we move on, Janine had a question. Would one of those cases include a change in bedroom?
That would be a unique situation in which you would call DAIL to discuss it. We would have to take further look at that, a more in-depth look at that particular situation. And we are getting some of those, but each one has such, each one's a little bit different. So we really need to look at it, that particular situation, and talk with the agency about it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Beard. I work for the Adult Services Division. So along with the re-inspections, there's a grandfather clause. Home safety inspections completed prior to July 1st, 2011 are not required to have that 5-year re-inspection unless a new individual moves into the home has significant alterations completed, or DAIL quality management staff or the provider agency feels that there are safety concerns in the home. Something important to remember is before that new individual moves into the home, that inspection needs to be completed for ASD, and this is important to know that even when the original participant remains in the home, that inspection needs to happen. So before you enter any information into the housing portal or contact Evergreen, I'm going to do the pre-inspection process, and that includes using that pre-inspection checklist that you can find on the DAIL housing page to go into the home and assess all those items. You're going to fill out the form, flag any items, any deficiencies that you flag will need to be corrected before Evergreen comes out to do their inspections. All rooms in the home should be inspected for this home safety assessment. And then please discuss any non-compliant items with the homeowner and assist them in correcting any issues. During this pre-inspection, another good step would be to give the home provider information about what they should expect during Evergreen's inspection. It can be uncomfortable for somebody to have their private home inspected, and so the more information that they have, the better. Another step would be to ensure that all the testing has been scheduled and completed. That would include the water test, that would include the professional chimney cleaning and inspection if that's applicable. All this documentation should be uploaded into the housing portal. Next. Water test. So any home that's not on the public water system is required to have a water test completed. It's up to the homeowner to request this test. It's our understanding that this process takes about a week to get the results, could be a little bit longer. So if this test is required, please ensure that it's been requested and the results have been received and uploaded into the DAIL Housing Portal before scheduling that home safety inspection. Evergreen is going to ask for those results. They'll need to see them at the inspection, so please make sure that they're available.
Chris, are you there?
Sorry, I muted myself, and I forgot I muted myself. All right, so this brings us up to the chimney cleaning and inspection verification. So as a reminder, all the shared living providers will have to have masonry chimneys, wood burning furnaces, standalone pipes, or fireplaces being used for wood heating in the home need to be cleaned and inspected. And that's the key phrase right there. The units using wood to heat the home. So professional chimney cleaning and inspection needs to be completed prior to when the home safety assessment is conducted. The certificate or report on the chimney letter, on the company letterhead, is required to be uploaded into the portal. Annual chimney cleaning should be, sorry about that, folks, I lost my place. Chimney should be cleaned annually and inspected. Cleaning your annual cleaning that is done less than a year before the 5-year re-inspection period needs to include that in the cleaning by the professional, the inspection, and the report by the professional chimney cleaning company. In between, you have the annual cleaning that can be done by the home provider or any person, but it needs to be verified with the certificate, which the housing safety and accessibility process page, and which can be found on our website, that you need to fill out, that shows documentation that the chimney was cleaned by the third party, and the documentation form cannot be filled out by the home provider. So any questions there before we move on to the next one?
There are a couple of questions on the chat line or whatever. And I think there was a question regarding what rooms need to be inspected for the previous slide on that chat room as well.
Michelle, do you want to address that?
Yep, just looking through them. Let's see. So the question is, why would we be inspecting the homeowner's own bedroom? Chris, do you want to take that one?
The idea is to make sure that we have inspected all the potential bedrooms in the home, and typically the homeowner's bedroom will not be used in the future, but we have had incidents come up where the home provider's children have moved out and the home providers have rearranged their home, and they are no longer using what was identified as their bedroom, and they are moving somebody in. So any bedroom in the home could be potentially used at a future date. So this is an attempt to make sure that all the potential bedrooms are used, including the home providers. And it's a quick in and out. So that's the rationale behind it.
Chris, a quick question, follow up to that. If the potential shared living provider refuses to let us inspect either their children's bedroom or their own bedroom, what should we do? And also, does that mean in order for the home to be for someone to move in, that if we have one person moving in and they have to replace the window in 3 different bedrooms because 2 of them might be used in the future, that's going to be really cost prohibitive. And would they have to change those rooms before those windows before the person moved in?
Okay. Those are all pretty deep thoughts, but they're realistic. We cannot force anybody to do anything. We cannot force a home provider to allow you to inspect a bedroom. All we're asking is that you point out to them that it is a requirement, and that you consider that when you make this presentation, and in the fact that it might reflect other situations and other requests that the agency makes of this potential home provider. But we can't tell you, no, you can't use this shared living provider because they won't let you inspect that bedroom. We're just telling you that this is the process that we are expecting you to follow, and you need to do it as much as you can. And if they won't let you do it, then they won't let you do it. We're not going to automatically disqualify every home that won't allow you to inspect the other bedrooms.
All right, thank you for that, Chris.
Okay.
I do have one follow-up though. If say they allow us to inspect the other bedrooms, and 3 of them need new windows, that's pretty costly.
Yep.
Do all 3 of them need to be the appropriate size before someone can move in?
This has actually come up a couple of times, and we have not, because that bedroom is not being used at the present, we have not asked that those windows be brought into compliance right now. But we have made sure that the agency was clear with the provider that if that bedroom is used, they will need to replace the window at that time.
And Chris, just to clarify, for a situation like that, the agency would then request a variance for that room window, correct?
Yes.
And that's how, if the request a variance through DAIL saying that room's not being used right now, and request the variance for that particular window.
All right, so the variance is granted, and 2 years down the road, we are going to move somebody into that home. They replace the window.
Yep.
Or into that room, excuse me. They replace the window. Does that mean that Evergreen now needs to come out, or whomever is holding the contract? Nothing against you, Therese. Whoever holds the contract, do they need to come out and certify or look at and verify that the window has been replaced and now meets code?
Yes, Evergreen would have to come out and look at the window and make sure it came into compliance.
That would be something you'd contact DAIL, and most likely it'd be a bedroom only assessment down the road.
All right, thank you.
But any that we can get done on the initial assessment is going to benefit everybody. As Chris mentioned, we're getting more and more where a home is done and a year down the road, additional rooms need to be done. So the more we can do the whole house initially, the better off it will be for everyone.
Chelsea, you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
I did have a question. So let's say we do convince everybody. I always ask in the next 5 years what rooms could potentially be used by the client and leave it open to them. But let's say we do a bedroom that the client's not going to be in and the window size doesn't work. The variance piece, usually I have to have a guardian or a client sign off on the variance that we're looking to get to pass through. who would be signing this variance in order to approve the home in order for us to move forward with the client we were trying to get in there?
You would
Does that
run
make
it through
sense?
yeah, you would run it through the same variance process. You'd still just have to put it in with.
So would it just doesn't really make sense to me, because typically the variance is for that client. So we don't know what client's going to go in there yet. So I just don't know how we would write a variance per the agency.
It's the same variance process. You're asking for the variance to get the house inspected and the process to go through. So it's still the same variance. Chances are, with one bedroom window is not meeting, all three of them didn't meet. So it's still the same variance. But we'd have to really talk about these instances as they come up.
Okay.
So to back up to the water test slide, Therese and Michelle would like to say that the water test has to be done by a state of Vermont approved laboratory. Also, looks like Bart had a question. Have the state labs reopened? Private water testing labs are the only service that has been available to us for the past months. It's my understanding that the state labs are not currently doing water tests. Let's see, Therese and Michelle also would like to clarify that the key word is cordwood. That would be for the chimney cleaning and inspection slide.
Are we good to move on?
I think so.
Well, it looks like there's another question from Patrick Frazier about the chimney cleaning. Some providers have opted to seal off the chimney rather than clean them, as they don't have any objective standards for permanent fixtures to prevent access to chimney fireplaces that we can communicate to SLPs. I don't think we have any objective standard. What we're looking for is just a permanent sealing up, whether it's typically something is put in front of the opening of the fireplace to block it off. Usually there's a board put up or something that's permanently attached in place with screws or bolts or whatever. That, I believe, is what we're looking for. That kind of there it is, it's closed off.
Looks like Therese and Michelle clarified. I'm not sure if DAIL does, but we would determine if the chimney is sufficiently blocked off. Looks like there's some people with their hands up. David?
Yeah, hi. The one question I have, I remember reading somewhere previously, but I'm not seeing it on this page, is how these cleaning issues apply to pellet stoves more specifically. And just a piggyback question on that, I had a homeowner recently tell me that he was told, and this is a longtime homeowner, but a longtime provider, but in a new place, that he's been told in the past that because his pellet stove is direct vented, he doesn't need any certification of anything. Can we address either of those issues? I appreciate it.
He's correct. In general, pellet stoves do not require this level of cleaning because of the way they burn more efficiently, and that's why Therese and Michelle clarified the cordwood as the key word, because it's the wood, the actual lump wood from the log wood that has potential creosote. So this is a creosote buildup that we're trying to avoid.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Therese and Michelle, did you have a comment? Nope. Okay. How about Janine? You have your hand up.
Yes, I'm wondering how would having the whole house inspected apply in a case where it's a mother-in-law apartment? Should both, if it's a duplex, do we inspect the entire building or just the mother-in-law apartment that the client will be living in?
For a situation like that, it's a unique situation. You should contact DAIL to discuss it before the assessment is scheduled, so that we can all figure it out together.
Thank you.
Teresa Michelle, your hand is back up.
Hopefully you can hear us now. Is
Yep.
that true? Okay,
Yeah.
I am so sorry. We're just not used to using the phone like this. Sorry about that. I got 3 things. Thing number 1, when Bart asked his question about whether or not the state lab was open or private labs, I didn't know what maybe that was in response to the chat here that I put in that Vermont state approved labs are required for that water test. And the reason why this comes up is because we had a couple people ask us if they could like Home Depot tests and stuff like that. So these other tests that are on that Vermont list that's on the assessment request form, they are Vermont approved state labs, or they wouldn't be on that list. So I just wanted to clarify that. The second clarification piece is the cordwood piece and the pellet stove issue that Dave talked about. For sure, if it is the cordwood, like logs that somebody cut, split, or whatever, going into a fireplace, into a wood stove, going into a wood boiler or a wood furnace, those are all typically ducted into a chimney. And yes, that chimney would need to be both inspected and cleaned. We've come across multiple chimneys where the liners are broken, multiple chimneys where the bricks are not right, where the distances are not right, and in some cases they were serious problems. So that's the reason for the professional on the first time around. Once you get that fixed, then the private homeowner requesting it from a third party, that process can be done for the second, third, and fourth years. Then the next part. What was the other one I had? I had another one. We'll let you go. I'll figure out what the last. Oh yeah, wood stove. The last part is that some pellet stoves, depending on their age, and some wood stoves, depending on their age, would require chimney cleaning. So in those cases, we really want people to give us a call, and we'll look it up, and we'll find the installation manuals, and before we even go out there, we'll let you know what needs to happen and show you the reason why, okay? But Dave is correct and Chris is correct. If it is a direct vent, wood pellet stove, you don't need to clean that because of the way that they burn. But always give us a call if you have any problem. I'm all done now. Thanks.
Looks like there's one more question, and that's from Chelsea. Chelsea's all set?
Yes, I'm all set, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
All right, I'm going to move on. If anyone has any questions, I think it's easier to see them if you raise your hand. So just raise your hand and then I'll back to you. So you've done the inspection, you've requested the water test if applicable, the chimney cleaning, that's all set. The forms have been uploaded. What's next? Next, you enter the necessary information into the housing portal. Location, case, assessment. There's a good description in the service coordinator manual if you need help walking through that. The other step, which is a little new, is you'd fill out the home safety request for housing contractor form and email it to the housing contractor to request a date for that assessment to be completed. Before you send that form, please save it and rename it using this naming convention that you see on your screen. It's going to make it a lot easier for Evergreen. It gets confusing when they get a lot of forms with the same name. An important reminder, once that date is scheduled, the agency goes back into the housing portal and enters the assessment date.
The location piece of it, again, this is a part that we've done many times, but it's important to bring up again. And we also have a new ask of everybody, is if the living area for the participant appears to be separate or unique from the main home, to please contact DAIL prior to entering any information, prior to contacting the Evergreen, so that we can all understand the situation and understand how it needs to be assessed and entered into the portal. Where there's more and more unique situations going on, and so we really need to collaborate on those and look at each one individually, because each one has its own little way of being there. So contact DAIL on those. And when you're searching for a location in the portal, again, we ask that you please use less information is better. And to search for the location, there should never be two locations with the same address. Unfortunately, sometimes when an agency changes or something, or sometimes the same agency, if it's entered, if you search for it with too many words, like if this particular example, if I search for 123 school STR, it would not come up. And therefore, it could be a duplicate. So the less information that you put in when you're searching, the better. And please be sure to check. Again, this is just when you're searching, always search for the location. Never change the information of a location that's already in the portal. If you believe the address is incorrect, please contact DAIL. But you should not change, like if it's 123 School Street and you think it's supposed to be 789, please do not change it. Please contact DAIL, and we'll figure out what's going on and how come it was entered, if it was a typo, if there's two different homes, or what the situation is. If a participant moves to a new location, do not change the address in the portal for that case. What happens is you have to close out that case for that location, and a new location, the new home at the new location has to be entered into the portal. A case has to be done. It's separate. Do not change the location when a person moves to another location. The location in the portal, again, should never be changed. And if you have any questions, again, DAIL is here trying to help you and work with you and trying to figure out situations that are unique. If you can access a location but you can't see the assessment information in the portal, again, please contact DAIL. Most likely it was entered under a different agency, or a mistake was made somewhere or something, and we can figure that out together. So again, 2 locations.
Lisa?
Yes.
Sarah has a question.
Yeah, Lisa, with these, I guess we had just approved a shared location with Green Mountain Support Services, and we got that approval finally through DAIL and like that, and it says it's approved. I can't see the assessment. Is it different because it's a shared location?
Yes, if there's a shared location, the way the portal is set up currently, the way it was set up by request of the agencies and stuff, is you can't see another location's information. So in that situation, you need to contact DAIL, because what we're going to have to do is copy the assessment for your case so that you have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And just a reminder of the naming standards in the portal when you're entering a location. We still get abbreviations and things. And again, when searching for a location It makes it difficult when they're not entered the same way, and it also causes duplications in the portal because they're entered with different abbreviations. So remember, please, to look at the manual for the correct name and standard. And then we have a new property type. Property type has always been in there. However, we just recently changed the options to it so that it will help us understand a little bit better on home, especially, this is especially going to be helpful for unique situations. Most of them are pretty much their standard, the condo or apartment, duplex, single home. When it comes to a single home family with an apartment, or as somebody was mentioning, a mother-in-law apartment, or it's just unique, a different type of property, it's a unique type, please contact DAIL again, and we'll work with you and try to figure out how to enter it and how it needs to be assessed. And we'll work with the agency in Evergreen so that we're all on the same page and understand what's happening with that particular location. We are getting some special supportive units where the SLP is not living in that unit. Again, contact DAIL and we'll work together to figure it out. And then there's the multi-use building where there's a business in the same building as apartments. So those are the new options. Again, the property type has always been there in the portal, but we haven't required you to use it. And we're now asking that it be used, and we have these options.
Courtney, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I have a situation where I have a home provider who has a client living in like a unit that's not attached to the home, which was inspected prior to 2011. However, the home provider had a second client in their home at one point, which changed their inspection date in the portal, but they are claiming that they do not wish to be a home provider, like as far as having anyone else in their home. So how would I go about that? Because the separate unit was inspected prior to 2011, but the home was inspected after, when they had the second person in the home. So now it's showing me that the inspection's due. So it's just kind of confusing, like, you know, what I should do with that.
So that would be a situation in which you would contact DAIL and we would talk it over and try to figure out what the best solution is. Yep. And how to handle it and what information and how to enter it into the portal and what information we have.
Okay.
Lisa, there's also questions in the chat.
Okay, can you read them, please?
If the location is listed with another agency, but there is no longer placement in the home for that agency, what is the expected turnaround time for the original agency to respond to your request for access?
Yeah, we've had, I don't recall the answer to that. I believe there was a turnaround time in the manual. I don't remember it off the top of my head. If there's, if you don't get a response within a reasonable amount of time, I would say within a couple of weeks anyway, if not sooner, please reach out. Sometimes I think there's confusion in regards to the original agency. If they're not using the home provider anymore, then whether it's actually a shared location request or not a shared location request, and it does cause some questions and stuff. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there, and DAIL is aware of that and is looking at that process. We've been looking at that process for a while, but we're trying to clean up that process for those, especially for those situations. Currently, even if an agency is not using that home provider anymore, but they were using it and the assessment was done when they were using it, a shared location request has to be submitted through the system That's the way the system is set up. And until we can figure out a better way to do that, that process is still going to have to be done.
The next question is there a naming standard for uploading preliminary assessments?
Yes, it would be, we're getting to that. It's a little bit further down here, but we are getting to that piece of it.
And the last question is, if an agency supports a person receiving supports from agency hired staff 24/7, an assessment is still needed, right?
I'm sorry, repeat that one more time, please.
If an agency supports a person receiving 24/7 support from agency hired staff, an assessment is still needed, right?
Chris, would you like to handle that? I believe so, correct?
Yeah, if you're talking of, if you're asking about a 24-hour staff home, and it's this person, the individual is the only person receiving supports in that home, then yes, it does need to be inspected the same as a shared living home.
Patrick has a question.
Okay.
Hey, thanks. Just a quick question. Howard Center is doing a quality review right now with the state, and some of our program managers are getting requests for home assessment cover sheets. And so when I go into the portal, I see that the home assessments, all of the home assessment items are in the housing portal, and they're listed as approved, and the assessment is approved, case is approved. Is there a way to generate the cover sheet that the state is looking for from that, or is it a separate document that we can find somewhere? I've been getting a couple of these requests, and I've been pointing the PMs to the assessment ID number, but they're asking for something else. So I just wanted clarity on that.
There is a way to, in the case on the, there is a place to click where you can get the whole summary for that case as far as what the assessments were done, that the assessments were approved, the location of the home, the individual in the home. There is a place to click on the case to get that report sheet to put in an individual's folder. So Patrick, we can be in contact later and I can show you how to do that.
Great, thank you.
So the next thing we're just going to remind people of is when you're adding a home provider, that there should be only one person per contact entry. If there's two home providers, you need to enter two separate contact entries. You shouldn't have, even if it's husband and wife, there should never be John and Sue. There should be one for John and one for Sue. So that's just a reminder that one contact per entry. And the case has a place to enter two home providers. So now we're going to have a little fun with a little quick quiz for those people that are on their computers and can see. There's 4 different options here as far as what the process is when you're doing a home safety assessment, the process for home safety assessment. Either enter the assessment in the portal, do pre-inspection, and contact the housing contractor. Contact the housing contractor first and then do a pre-inspection. Enter the assessment afterwards. Do the pre-inspection. Obtain the necessary documents, enter the assessment in the portal, and contact the housing contractor. Or the order doesn't matter as long as you get it done. The answer is 3. Things do have to be completed in order to make the process work correctly and that to ensure that everything does get done. Okay, the new assessment screen, again, is just a reminder that that when you're doing a new assessment, entering a new assessment, only the initial assessments are created in the new assessment screen. Follow-ups are created within the initial assessment record. So that's just a reminder to everybody. And this is new, that if you feel that a bedroom-only assessment is needed, please contact DAIL before entering any information in the portal or before contacting the housing contractor. Again, it's to talk about the situation. We're getting a lot of unique situations and a lot of there's some confusion and stuff. So at this time, we're asking that you always contact DAIL if you believe that you have a bedroom only assessment that's needed. Assessment template. Again, it's something that most of you are very familiar with, but we're just bringing up the importance of filling it out and making sure that it's all filled in. And this is extremely important, is after you've entered the assessment to go to the related tab and upload your documents. This is getting better, but we're still finding missing documents and stuff. So again, it's a reminder to make sure that all documents that you need for that assessment is uploaded, and they're always uploaded into the initial assessment. The only exception for uploaded documents is for an emergency placement, which initially, the documents are uploaded in a different place, but then they do have to be uploaded again into the initial assessment. So if you just keep that in mind, that initial assessment, related tab of the initial assessment, that's where all documents go. Variance documents, fire plans, guardian notes, anything goes into the initial assessment related tab. And then everybody knows that's where you go to find your documents for that assessment. The documents that are uploaded into the portal, it's very, very important that they follow the correct name and convention. We're getting more and more documents that are uploaded. And of course, the portal, the information in the portal is growing. And sometimes it's really difficult to find the documents you need because we're getting all kinds of documents with all kinds of names, sometimes numbers from being scanned and that kind of thing. So please, please start using your naming conventions when you're uploading documents. And also there's some document types that are not acceptable. IMG, we can't open them. Sometimes people are scanning something to an email housing thing and then emailing that to their own stuff. So by the time it gets uploaded into the portal, you have to click on the thing about 4 times before you actually get to the document. So it should be a straight document into the portal. Usually it would be, PDF, Word, JPEG. Occasionally there's other types. I think Notepad sometimes is used, and those are all fine as long as they can be open. But it's really, really important. The naming convention will definitely help also, but some of these documents cannot be seen. So please, we know that some of it may be to COVID, due to COVID and people working at home, but some of this was going on way before that. And if you're uploading documents that we can't read, it doesn't help anyway, because we're going to be contacting you and asking you to upload them again. So please, and this is the naming convention. This is in the manual, the service coordinator manual. except we have added a naming convention for variance notes and a naming convention for the housing contractor form.
The assessment needs to be entered into the housing portal and the documents uploaded before you contact Evergreen to schedule the assessment. This would be for all assessments, initial or follow-up, safety or accessibility. The agency fills out the DAIL Home Safety Assessment Request for Housing Contractor form and fills in that assessment ID number from the portal. Evergreen needs this number when they go in and do the inspection and when they enter in the inspection data. And again, please save this form using this naming convention that you see below. When you go to schedule the assessment, you're going to send that completed form with the correct naming convention to Evergreen through email to schedule a time for the housing assessment to be completed. Multiple forms, perfectly acceptable to send, in one email, but each location should have a separate form that you're sending to Evergreen. Also, another note about scheduling. Whenever possible, if an accessibility assessment is needed, please schedule that at the same time as the home safety assessment. Noting that on the form, letting Evergreen know that both of those inspections need to be done. Quiz number 2. True or false? When creating a contact for the home provider, if there's more than one provider in the home, it's all right to add them as one contact. False. Each person must be added as a different contact. When uploading documents into the housing portal, they should always be uploaded where? In the related tab. Documents are always uploaded in the related tab of the assessment, except when an emergency placement is being requested, and we'll go into that in a later slide. True
We
or
just have
false?
to remember that that's the initial assessment.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's correct. True or false? When a participant moves to a new location, the new location needs to be entered into the portal and a new assessment needs to be completed. True. The current case in the old location is closed and the new location is entered into the portal and the process for a new assessment is completed. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions about that new form? I know we've had a couple of slides on it. About the information, the process.
There's one question in the chat.
Oh, let's see. Is there a different naming convention if you are only requesting an accessibility inspection? Good
For
question.
a naming convention for the document? No, it would be the same naming convention.
So we're using the same form that's labeled housing inspection for an accessibility inspection request.
Yes.
Thank you.
The form has been, a draft of a revised form has been uploaded onto the website, or will be after today. That has a little bit more information in it. We realized that the form that was previously being used was lacking some information. So the new form has additional spots to put in accessibility AID numbers and the home safety AID number and stuff. So that will be uploaded onto the website and will enable you to provide additional information and is laid out better, I think.
Teresa, Michelle, did you have a comment about the form?
Yes, it's my understanding that you have sent us the form for review, and so putting it up on the website maybe is a sort of like a, maybe should wait a little bit?
We can discuss that. We'll talk with you in regards to that.
Okay, but we do have some significant changes that we feel would make things better. I just want to get it out, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like stay tuned for changes to the form. Anything we change, we'll update on the DAIL housing page.
Also, we tried to notify, DAIL has a email list for the super users at your agencies. So whenever there's a update or important information or changes, we usually notify the super users at the agencies. So if you're not a super user, but you use the portal, you may want to check in with them occasionally, or if you have questions, check in with them to find out if they've heard anything or received anything.
And if you are a super user and you do get these communications, please pass them along to everyone at your agency who's working in the housing portal. Question from Sarah?
Lisa, can someone go over I know we have new service coordinators at LCMHS who have never even tried to get into the portal. Can that be gone over on how they even get in and how they get a password to get in?
Okay, the overall comment for that is that DAIL has to be contacted whenever there's a new user. If you have somebody in your agency who will be working in the portal, to please contact DAIL. We need to set up an account for the individual, and they will get an email from us, and they'll get a password from us. If they used to have an account and haven't used it for a significant amount of time, it's likely that their account has been inactivated. And so again, you would need to contact DAIL in regards to that. In regards to where to go or how to get into the portal once they get an account, DAIL is willing and open and has done it multiple times to actually set up a special one-on-one training or agency training if needed to go over some of the basic information. We also are hoping to rely on the super users to do trainings and have the people, these recordings of these trainings are being put up on the website, that a person would review all this information in addition to being trained by either the super user and or DAIL. Does that answer your question?
Yes, to a point. I guess this is Sarah, it's been so long since we way back did the trainings to even get in that I haven't used it since then, since 2 or so years ago, to even get in. So in all honesty, I probably couldn't even tell you how to get in to begin with.
Okay.
I know how now to move around it and who to call if I need to have a new password set up, but you know, and I'm just being honest, Lisa, that
yep.
I mean, I know how to move around in it and stuff like that, but as far as leading someone to it and getting them set up, I'm not so sure I would be very good at that.
Okay, certainly. What I would ask, Sarah, is that you contact us through email, and maybe we can set up an individual thing for you and any other users in your agency. DAIL will also talk about doing a training again from step 1,
okay,
possibly in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So there's a question about whether there's an email phone list for all super users for all agencies. It sounds like maybe they were wanting to know if they could have a copy of that. And also, I just posted in the chat a link to our website that has the housing stuff in it if anybody wants that link.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the super user list. We used to have one out there, but I will need to check to find out what happened with that. I know some super users have changed. I also believe we might be able to have something in the portal directly so that it's always up to date, where under the reports. I don't know if there's one in there already for you that will show all the super users, and if not, Dale can discuss possibly putting a report in there which will pull all the super users within the portal and make a list for you.
Another question just came in. Can the database be searched by names or just location?
I believe it can be. I don't know the answer to that because the way Dale goes into the portal is different than service coordinators. So Dale will need to go in a different portal, or the same portal, a different way into the portal to experiment. I don't have an answer for that right now. I don't know, Michelle, if you know that or not.
Lisa, it's Sarah. I think that we were always told that it was location only.
Okay.
It looks like Allison has her hand up. Maybe she has an answer to this question.
Oh, great. Yes, Allison would know.
Allison, are you there?
Oh, I was on mute, sorry. Hi, I'm the DAIL developer. We do have a location search off the location screen, so you can search location.
Allison, are they able to search by name though?
The name of the street, yes.
No, then a person's name. I believe the question was a person's name, correct? Whoever asked that question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I believe they can. I'd have to check.
Okay, so Dale will check into that a little bit more and let you know. And if there is a way to do it, to let you know how to do it. If there isn't a possibility, we'll look to see what it might entail, so that may be something you would be able to do. I've added it to our list of things to do. Okay. So non-compliant items, once an assessment is done, you click on the non-compliant item and all the non-compliant items come up, and you either choose request a variance, initiate a home modification, or it might be a combination of the two. You do not upload any documents. See all these little X's over here? Even though there's a place to upload documents in a variance, please do not do that. Variance documents are uploaded in the related tab of the initial assessment. We're not going to get in depth into non-compliant items and variances. We're going to have another training because it takes a little bit of time. We are going to have a separate training, and on February 4th at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a more in-depth training on variances, accessibility assessments, and shared locations, which we encourage all of you to attend. Okay. So we're not going to really get into that too much here. We're just wanted to bring it up. I'm sorry?
What was the time again, please?
It's on February 4th at 1 o'clock. So once the follow-up assessment, again, a reminder is it always should be created in the initial assessment. It should never, That's where any follow-up should be from the initial. And before a follow-up is done, service coordinators must confirm that the person has corrected all the required home modifications that need to be done prior to the housing contractor going out to do the follow-up. A second follow-up should not be necessary. If something happens, please contact DAIL. And again, we will try to figure it out all together. But please make sure that modifications are completed prior to scheduling your follow-up.
Courtney, did you have a question?
I do. I'm running into, because of COVID, I'm running into my home providers having issues like getting contractors or people in there to do the things that need to be done. For like when I do my pre-inspection and there's things that need to be fixed, like, you know, they have to reach out to certain people that do so, and they're struggling. And I know we have like a 30-day window, but it's really putting a damper on my inspections and like the time frame that I'm able to get them done. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, but I do know that it's really affecting me with my inspections. So is there like, what should we do in that case? Because I know, you know, we have a certain time frame, but like if it's out of their hands, what, you know, how do we go about that?
Chris or Michelle, could you address that, please?
I mean, I would say always reach out if you find that you're having trouble meeting the time frames and there's a special circumstance. Just reach out to us. We'll talk it through with you.
Yeah, Courtney, that's the way to do it. This falls under those special circumstances that Lisa's been talking about. So reach out and we'll talk.
Teresa, Michelle, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we offered up whenever there's a safety follow-up or any follow-up that we have to go out to, and you're questioning whether or not for sure it's been fixed correctly. We've multiple times asked people to send us a picture, and we can give you some idea of whether or not that will meet the need. And then when we come down, we can confirm it. But having that, if there's any question, having that photo to look at is very useful both for us to let you guys know it's done okay, and for you to feel confident that when you call us back, it's going to pass. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is just showing where the follow-up is, and please don't click this button twice. Sometimes it will say, please wait, I believe. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. The system will generate the follow-up, and I think it's been pretty good lately, but if needed, you can refresh your browser to see.
Lisa, there's another question in the chat. In the past, we were able to expand the section observation notes entered by Evergreen. There's been issues doing that recently. How can we expand the notes section so we can see everything Evergreen writes?
Okay, what Evergreen writes in the assessment information, you're not able to expand it anymore? Is that the question, if I've got that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have an answer to that. I think that might be something that Dale will have to check into after this training to find out if something happened or changed, or if Allison knows right off the top of her head. She can
Allison
answer.
has her hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but you've got to pull on the corner with your cursor and expand it.
So it does show, Allison, currently they just have to expand the box by pulling on the corner.
You have to pull on the corners. It can get a little tricky depending on the resolution on your screen.
I've done that. All I get is the red circle with the slash through it. Don't, can't, whatever.
Okay.
Okay, well, send us an example. That would be great. Thanks.
And Lisa, one more question from Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, when we, just want to make sure I'm correct, when we push the follow-up inspection, then we need to send out the AR form again, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
There, you would send that again because it's going to have a different AID number on it for Evergreen to know which assessment you're referring to.
Okay, and so then we're writing down what was created as the follow-up assessment number.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. In regards to the other question, when you do receive an error message when you're entering stuff, and if it's if it's not something that you just did by accident, and it doesn't happen again. If it's something that happens over and over, like trying to expand the box and you're getting an error message, taking a screenshot of that, Allison, I'm speaking for you, but taking a screenshot of what's happening and sending it to DAIL and saying, every time I try to expand this block, I'm getting this error message. It really helps Allison out to try to figure out what's going on and see what you're getting for an error message. So if you could do that, we would appreciate it, and we'll try to do our best to help get it fixed for you. So accessibility assessments. When an individual who uses a wheelchair, a walker, or has other mobility or accessibility needs that affect the individual's ability to freely navigate the home, they receive home supports funded by the state or federal government, and accessibility inspection of the residence is required. So we just want to make sure that people are aware of that. It's not by choice, that it's required in these certain circumstances. And entering the assessment, accessibility assessment into the portal is the same process, is basically the same process as a home safety assessment. Again, we're not going to get into this in depth again, as this is going to be included, accessibility assessment is going to be included in the February 4th training that we, again, encourage everyone to attend. So after all the assessments are successfully completed, then the agency goes back in and approves the case. But all of the assessments have to be successfully approved. If you have a home accessibility, home safety assessment that's approved, but the accessibility is still pending, you do not approve that case because not all the assessments are approved. So this is just reminding you of that. And it also includes cases where they're for emergency placements. It's a little confusing in the portal because there's a tab across the top that says emergency placement approved. So it looks like you're all set, but that's approval for the emergency placement itself. Once all the assessments have been approved, have been completed and approved, you need to change the case status to just approved.
Lisa, there's some questions.
Question or comment from Therese and Michelle.
Hi, I just wanted to reiterate, I know you're going to have the accessibility training coming up. Sometimes Evergreen inspectors get asked, do we need to do an accessibility? And we're not the ones to make that call. So I just wanted to make sure to let everyone know that if it really doesn't help if you ask us that. That's something that needs to be done at the DAIL end or at the agency end. So we are not in a position to say or to inform you that you need an accessibility. Okay?
Thank you.
Point, Therese.
In the chat as well. When did the pre-inspection for accessibility become an expectation for the agencies?
Michelle, you want to handle that?
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
When did the pre-inspection for accessibility become an expectation for agencies?
That's a little before my time. I know the pre-inspection process is a little different for accessibilities because the expectation isn't that everything is going to be corrected before the actual inspection. It's really just a tool to help you to determine if, if something is going to be in a deficiency, so you can start thinking about what needs to be done with that deficiency. But as when it started, I'm not really sure.
Okay, and the next question, do you have to get a PT out to the home to go over the home before you request a variance?
So I don't know. The general answer is probably yes, but again, the training on the 4th, we will get into that a lot more. There's a lot more to it. And Michelle, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or Chris?
Well, considering the variance process for an accessibility is done through the PT or an OT, then you would, yeah, you should have that appointment scheduled as you are requesting the variance.
I agree. And Teresa Nelson, are you still on the call? Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I'm on the call. And no, not really. The PT does play a huge part in my approving a variance because I need to understand how that non-compliant item isn't going to affect the participants. So having the PT notes there complete so I can get a really good picture of why the non-compliant item does not affect the participants. So yes, PT, very important.
Okay, to move on?
Looks good.
Okay. So in approving a case, the agency should never change the status of assessment once the housing contractor has entered the information in the assessment. If you feel that something's amiss, you should contact DAIL. But once the housing contractor has done an assessment, they've done the assessment, and it should not be nothing. The status of that should not change. If you have to close a case and there's an assessment in there that's non-compliant, it stays non-compliant. That assessment has been completed. It's non-compliant for that home, and it stays that way. You do not change the status to close the case.
Question from Teresa Michelle.
Yeah, I don't know if this had been covered yet. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I just wanted to ask that when you do put the assessment request in and it's all scheduled with us and you know what day that status gets changed to scheduled. Lately, we've been finding this, we have to go through kind of a convoluted method to find it if it's just assessment requested. And then when we find it, we're changing the status to scheduled, and that's, I think, lies at the user's end, not at our end. And I just kind of want, we've been doing that a lot lately, and I just kind of want to make that note.
Correct. You're correct, Therese. It's the agency's responsibility to go back in. And actually, if the agency goes back into the assessment and you enter the assessment date into your assessment, it automatically changes the status from assessment requested to scheduled. So all you need to go in, change the date, and it will automatically change that. And Evergreen really needs to have that in order to be able to find the assessments on their end. But it is the agency's responsibility to go back in and do that.
That's right. It's also really helpful for us as well. If we have any question on timelines, if we can just go into the portal and see that an assessment has been scheduled and what date it's scheduled for. Patrick, do you have a question?
Just a quick comment. This is Patrick Fraser from Howard Center. I've actually had the opposite thing happen wherein I enter a date and then it shifts back to assessment requested. So just a note to everybody else that I have experienced having to go from scheduled two just requested. So sometimes I've had to go back in and double check. It's just a funky thing that happens, but I find that it's helpful just to take another look even after I already changed the status.
Thank you, Patrick.
Allison, comment?
Yes. What happens if someone enters the assessment altogether, meaning their first pass through it, they're entering the visit date and time, it will not set it to scheduled, and that's probably when you're seeing it as being left assessment requested. If you enter the assessment data and then you come back on a different day or come back later and only enter the date, the visit date and time, then it will set it to scheduling. So that's the difference. When it sets it automatically for you is when you go in a second time.
Right. The portal, as Allison said, the process, the correct process, or how the portal was set up, is to enter the assessment into the portal, upload all the documents, then contact the housing contractor, schedule the assessment, and then go back in and put in the date. And if you do it in that order, then it automatically changes. But if you don't enter anything into the portal until after you have a date, then that's when it won't change automatically.
Exactly.
Lisa, there's a question in the chat. Would there be need of accessibility assessment would an accessibility assessment be required if someone has no mobility issues, however, they're visually impaired? If it's yes, the accessibility assessment does not appear to adequately address their needs.
Correct. Yes. Yes, accessibility. Actually, I should let Chris answer this, but yes, I believe accessibility is needed, and you may want to contact DAIL to discuss it further, but we understand the accessibility form and how it may not address certain things. But Chris, do you have any more to add to that, or a way to answer this?
The key phrase in the definition of when an accessibility is needed is that their impairment limits their person's ability to freely navigate the home. So if somebody is legally blind or has visual impairments or hearing impairments, initially there usually is some orientation to the home or processes and support that is needed to help them become familiar with the home and freely move about the home. And that may require the accessibility assessment, but there are specialized groups. The Department of the Blind and Visually Impaired, for example, that would take the place of the OT assessment. But those are the kind of things that, as Lisa said, that we should talk about individually. You know, just contact somebody here at DAIL and we can walk you through the process.
Chelsea has a question.
So I know
Go
that
ahead, Chelsea.
we are going to talk about. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes.
Okay. I know we're going to talk about assessments on the 4th, but I know I have inspections coming up. And since we have Evergreen, do you just want to address one thing? I recently had an accessibility inspection where there was a ramp, or excuse me, no ramp, and
Chelsea, you're breaking up a little bit. Do you want
to?
What's that?
Can if there's a certain situation that you have, Chelsea, is Chelsea correct? If there's a certain situation on a, can we email that separately other than the training, and we'll work with you to try to figure it out?
Yes, but it pertains to all inspections. So I just want to ask the question if I can. So in this inspection, there was one ramp question that was circled no, but they had no ramp. So I sent it off to the P to have that one piece signed. However, it got kicked back to me because if there's no ramp, everything should have been circled. No. So Dale is now asking me to go back to the physical therapist and complete it. However, I have nowhere to put it back to request the variance in the inspection. So if there is no ramp, are we asking Evergreen to mark no on all items so that the physical therapist can sign off on all the pieces and we're not going back and forth?
Yeah, I understand your question. I'm wondering, it may be a lengthy conversation. And I know you said that you have this assessment coming up. I would, if possible, I'd like to leave that discussion for the February 4th training. And because you have this assessment coming up and stuff, if you could be in contact with Dale and so that we can figure out this particular situation. And then on the 4th, hopefully we can, we'll get into the discussion. At this time, I'm just afraid that we're going to use up too much time trying to figure out, it will create a bigger conversation. So I think we need to hold off on that, if that's all right, Chelsea. And if you could work with Dale in the meantime on this particular one, and then on the 4th, we can have a bigger conversation about it.
Teresa, Michelle, do you have a quick comment? Your hand's raised.
Yes. Just a real quick comment. If there's no ramp, we mark everything in the ramp section as non-compliant. That's our process that we've been doing since we started to do these. It may change come the 4th when we talk about it, but just so that everyone knows, that's what we do right now. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Lisa, there's another question in the chat. Is there a trick to getting the list of deficient items to print?
I would, Dale needs to check into that. I had that question recently, and well, Allison may have an answer to it. I thought there was, but I tried to do something and it didn't work for me. So I wanted to check into it further before I can answer that. Not unless Allison has an answer off the top of her head. Dale might have to do a little bit more further investigation on that.
I believe we have print all assessments. Excuse me, print all assessment items.
Yeah, that's the one that I tried myself and it didn't work for me. Do service coordinators out there use that? Does it work for them? Is it just my computer? If it's not working, Dale will need to investigate a little bit further.
This is Cora. I have printed stuff before, but it's really small and hard to read. It is not reader friendly at all.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I'm in here. Assessments.
There's a couple other comments, people saying it hasn't worked for them either.
Okay, so let Dale, if Dale can take a look at that and get back to you in regards to that. And Cora, I understand it's not reader friendly and really tiny print. So let us check to see what's going on and see if there's anything that we can do for that. Just to let you know, when it comes to changes like this for IT or for IT work for Allison, we have one person doing this and she works for the whole department. So sometimes it's not something that she could necessarily go in and just fix after this training and everything's working by the end of the week. Sometimes it does take a little bit of time, so please be patient with us.
So I'm seeing it working. I mean, it's there. It is small.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll figure it out and let you know. Let the super users know. Okay. All right. Emergency placements.
All right, I think this is me. I'm getting a message that I have poor connection quality. So if I go away, if somebody could please jump in. Emergency home placements can be requested when there's an unexpected and imminent danger of homelessness of an individual that would put their health and safety in jeopardy due to no fault of their own. ASD recently put out a memo that also allows for an emergency home placement request when an accessibility assessment is needed, but the follow-up by the PT or OT cannot be conducted until after the individual moves into the home. And the reason why it was put out by ASD is because ASD has a specific requirement that participants cannot move in before all of the inspections are finalized. So this is related to COVID-19. It's in effect right now. So we can just go through these steps. Teresa Nelson, are you still on the call? Do you want to go through this, or do you want me to go through it? All right, I'll go through it. So the service coordinator creates the case in the housing portal. You would select yes for emergency placement. And then this is very important, enter the emergency placement comments and click save. Emergency placement requests cannot be either approved or denied without a specific reason. So that comment is really important. After that, you'll upload the documentation of your pre-inspection and the fire plan into the related tab of the case. This is a little bit different than the normal process. Then you'll wait for DAIL to submit a decision. And at DAIL, we get an email once you save that emergency placement request. Then once a decision has been made, you'll get an automatic email that says what the decision is. Once that placement is approved, the service coordinator needs to create an assessment per the usual process. And then a little bit of an extra step, those documents need to be uploaded again, but this time in the related tab of the assessment. And then an important timeline to be mindful of is that the initial inspection on the home must be completed within 30 calendar days of that emergency placement approval date. And then if any deficiencies are found on that inspection, there's a further 30 days to get them corrected and completed. Are there any questions on emergency placements? Oh, Courtney, looks like you have a question.
Yeah, hi. So I just did an inspection on an accessibility home, and we do have a person that is like trying to move into this home, but the inspection was non-compliant, so I have to get PT out there for the variant. So this individual, her thing runs out in like 20 days. So I'm a little nervous that, you know, I don't know if that would be considered an emergency placement. She's currently in, you know, a home, but her I think it's like the PSA or whatever it's called exactly is going to run out soon. But I was under the impression that the home would have to be completely like compliant prior to moving her in. What are your thoughts around that? Like, we did the inspection with Evergreen, but there was some areas that I have to have PT come out and observe.
Mm-hmm. Is this an ASD program or a DESD program?
Yeah, it's for AFC.
AFC. Mm-hmm. Teresa, do you want to answer that question? Do you want me to take it? Maybe Teresa's already left. So, Courtney, what I would say is just reach out to us. You are correct in that all the inspections need to be complete and finalized before an A participant moves into the home. Although an emergency home placement can be requested if it's the accessibility that's needed, the physical therapist can't come to the home. That's only in certain circumstances. It's not across the board. And so your first step would be to just reach out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is that with emergency placements? Okay, closing a case. If a case is being closed, it's required that something be put in the description field as far as why the case is being closed. This really helps further down the road, especially for DAIL staff like myself who tend to forget things in a few weeks or a month, and I go back in. It just explains, it actually is good. It explains what's in the portal and it explains why the case is being closed, so that sometimes, as most of you probably know at this point, sometimes the information in the portal isn't real clear. So this is just a clear way of understanding what's going on for that particular case. We have reasons for closing a case. There's occasionally other reasons, but these are the most reasons are either it's a data error, a 5-year reinspection needs to be done. And of course, on a 5-year, you close the current case and you open a new case, even if it's the same participant, you open a new case and do the new assessments underneath the new case. So the original case would be closed, so you just put in 5-year reinspect or 5-year. The participant passed away, they moved out of the home, they no longer are with that SLP, or no longer in the shared living program at all. And then if there's other reason, if you can explain in just a short, one short sentence why it's being closed, it's just very helpful down the road. So you would close a case. It's really important to only keep the cases open for participants who are currently in a location. So again, if an existing case needs to be closed and a new case open for a 5-year, that's it. If a case is closed and the assessment is non-compliant or approved, you just leave the assessment as it is, and you would close the case and write why you're closing it. Person might have moved or something to that effect. If a participant or a home provider moves to a new location, you do not change the information of the location in the portal. The case would be closed and you would say that they have moved and a new address would be entered into the portal, new location and any assessments necessary. To close a case, it's real easy. The bar at the top, you click closed and it will just close the case. So we're going to go through here. We're going to, here. So reports. There's a different reports available in the housing portal that can be useful for everyone. At this time, there's certain generic reports in the system. It could tell you, it can have a list of all your homes, all your active homes. It could have a list of all the assessments that are completed, a list of all your assessments with non-compliant items, locations that need to have the 5-year reinspect, what's pending for variances, shared location requests, emergency placements. DAIL is actually updating some of our reports in the portal, trying to clean things up and make sure that things are usable. If you have any helpful hints of reports you'd like to see and you can't find, or if there's a report in there that you feel if it only had this in there or only had this field in there, it'd be very helpful, please let us know. The reports can be found by, you have a report tab here, and then this will come up, and if you go to all folders, there's actually a folder that will show up first, and then if you click on the folder, all of these are in there. So all of these are in there for reports as generic reports. And if you start, we encourage you, strongly encourage you to start using some of these reports to make sure that things are done in the portal correctly. It will also help you if you ran a report by, like all cases by status, and you saw some cases open that you knew were no longer being used, that's also a good way for you to do some QA or to make sure that all your shared living providers are entered into the portal correctly. But it can also help you with scheduling and stuff. And again, if you have any ideas or suggestions, we're open to that, and we would strongly welcome it. And if once you use the reports, the recent on the top, they will show up if you just click on recent. If you've used a report and you click recent, it will list all the reports that you've gone into recently.
Lisa, Allison has a comment.
Hi, the question about where the 5-year re-inspections report is in there. It should be in there. And that will show them any inspections that are coming up.
Thank you.
They're hitting their 5-year mark, and we give you like a month's notice on there. It'll have all the old ones, anything after the grandfather date of July 2011, and anything that's coming up in the next month.
Thank you, Allison. I had forgotten that question.
You're welcome.
I forgot who asked that question at the beginning. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, this is Sarah. It was me.
Okay.
So I would guess that, Allison, you would suggest we check it on a monthly basis?
That would probably be good that you do that, because, or a regular basis anyway, because it will give you a heads up on what homes are going to need to be inspected.
I think it's a good practice too to check all of these reports on a regular basis. That way you'll see maybe if there's cases that should have been closed that are still open, inspections that are still outstanding. These reports are a great tool.
There's a question in the chat. If an individual lives in 2 different homes, shared living homes, will they have 1 case number or 2?
They would have 2 case numbers because they'd have a case under each location. If they're living in 2 different homes, they would have a case under home number 1 and a case under home number 2. So they will have 2 case numbers.
But just 1 contact, right?
But 1 contact. Well, the home provider would may be different.
Yes, 2 different home
providers. Have a second location and a second home provider, so that contact information may be different.
And
but,
Lisa, sorry. Yeah. Also, someone asked, where did the reports tab come from on the home page again? Could that be shown again?
Right here on your dashboard. I don't think there's a nice little picture, at least, well, maybe there is on yours. When I go in, I don't get the little picture, but I do have this little box down here that says reports.
And that isn't the one that's only for super users, is it? Just the shared location is for super users?
Correct. Correct.
And also, if you happen to be on another tab, you would go to your home tab first to get back to that reports icon.
Okay. So these are just a couple of quick tidbits. Is if you're in a screen and you make an error or get an error message, if you cancel, then it won't enter anything and you're all set, instead of Xing out. And to be sure to share any information, processes, forms, anything that with your agency staff that may have something to do with housing but may not work in the portal. Maybe other service coordinators, make sure that they are just aware of different processes, to make sure that just share the knowledge and that the website and information. So this is about the training that's going to be on the 4th. It's a more in-depth training about variances accessibility assessments in shared locations, and we're encouraging everybody to attend. And please feel free to reach out to DAIL staff with any questions or comments or things that might be helpful. You know, we're all in this together, trying to make a smooth working system that works for everybody.
There's a question in the chat. The expiration date for 5-year re-inspections would be 7/1/16, since homes inspected prior to 7/1/11 need to be, I think they're talking about the grandfather.
Important to remember about that grandfather clause. If a new participant moves into the home, the grandfather clause is no longer in effect.
But otherwise, that's true. What Michelle said is very true. But overall, that's basically, again, if you run the report will automatically do that. You don't have to worry about that.
Question from Sarah.
Hey, Lisa, will you send us, at least the super users, an invite again for this next training?
Certainly, an invite has not been sent out yet. It was actually something that just this week DAIL decided to do as we were doing this training, and we realized that we had so much information in it that there would be no way we could cover it in 2 hours. So we took out the things that were going to be a little bit more intensive or in depth. So we will be sending out a notice about the training to the super users for the 4th.
Thank you.
Chris?
All right, so that's the training. Thanks everybody for coming. This is one last reminder about the website that was mentioned often throughout the training. So at that website, you can find all the forms. You can find the service coordinator manual, which we hope you all refer to frequently when you have questions. And be aware that it is forms are updated constantly, so the forms that are on there may not be the most current. As always, contact us if you have questions. Thanks again.
Any last questions before we disperse?
In the chat, it says, starting at the DAIL home web page, how do you find the DAIL housing page?
Okay, this is the website, or on the DDS, it's on the DDS, it's actually housed in the DDSD website. And if you go to the top tab, at this time it's on the top tab under frequently used. I don't know if it's documents or frequently used sites. If you click on that, there's a place for that you can click for the housing, or the DDSD website is extremely good with search. If you just put in housing, the housing page link will come up and you can click on it that way.
There's also a link on the Adult Services Division page under Program Resources. There is a link to the DAIL Housing Safety and Accessibility Inspection Process, and that takes you to the same page. So you can get to it that way as well.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot that, Michelle.
There's a question: to add users to the portal, is there one specific person on the DAIL team to send those requests to, or should we send it to the entire group?
At this time, if you contact DAIL, it's good to put the entire group. We're all working feverishly on the housing, but we all have other parts to our job, just as all of you do. And to make sure that it gets addressed timely, it would be helpful to have everyone on it.
Next question: will this PowerPoint be sent to participants or to the super users?
This PowerPoint will be posted on the website page.
Also, this recording of this training will also be on the website page.
Any more questions? Well, we get done a little bit early. But
Actually, yes, there is one more question in the chat room.
okay.
Allison. Allison, you had something to say?
Yeah, there is another question. It's not worded as a question. Marcia is saying, I see assessment expiration dates of between 2011 and 2016. Should they still be looking at those to get inspections done for those that are over 5 years?
Because my understanding is that any home inspected prior to 7/1/2011 is grandfathered in unless, as it was said earlier, a new person moves into the home. Those are grandfathered in. So if there's an expiration date anywhere from 5 years from 7/1/11, they're grandfathered in. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, unless they fall under that circumstance, yes.
There were a couple of different ways that some of those earlier inspections, besides the second person moving in, could be brought back into the loop, but you should have been notified. We have had a few of those earlier inspections brought back into the 5-year re-inspect if there were major adaptations done to the home, or one of the quality reviewers did a review and they found a situation that required a new inspection. So anytime a new inspection of that home was done, the 5-year clock starts with that new additional inspection of the home.
I also just recalled another situation, which it might be showing on that report. When we're saying grandfathered, we mean approved assessment, that the assessment was approved prior to July 1st of 2011. Sometimes assessment was done prior to that time, but was never completed. So please also take a look at that if it's showing on the list as needing an assessment, there is a chance that it was never successfully completed, or if it was at the time, the information cannot be found. DAIL worked extensively with all the agencies trying to get all the history information to put into the portal. And there were occasionally some homes where the documentation could not be found by the agency or DAIL. So also take a look at that to make sure that it's successfully completed prior to July 1st of 2011.
Got it. Thank you.
I don't think we touched on this, but the accessibility inspections also need to be done again in 5 years. Teresa, Michelle, you had a comment?
Yeah, hi there. I just wanted to say I'm very, very thankful that we could be part of this overall training. I know we're coming to the close here. I think most people realize that we just see a very small part of the portal, and we don't know what all the other steps are that are associated with them, but this helped put everything in perspective with us, in perspective to us, so that we can perform inspections as quickly as we can and get what you guys need to get your people in the right homes. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else before we call it a day here? And again, we're hoping that everyone is able to attend the training on the 4th to take a look at the variances and the accessibilities and shared location a little bit more in depth. And please feel free to contact DAIL if you have questions or unique situations or didn't understand something. I did write down a few of the different questions that we weren't able to answer, and we'll try to get those clarified and back out to the super users. We'll put this PowerPoint and the recording of this training up on to the website, and we hope that everybody has a good day. Thank you.